What is up, guys? Wrestling Premier is here to be the man. That was one of the final words Ric Flair uttered before his career-threatening match with HBK at WrestleMania 24. I just wanted to mention it. You might not give a damn. If you do, it's good. Anyways, Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, perhaps the GOAT, depends on your perspective once again, decided to roll back the clock and show that he still has that ability to put on entertaining matches at 59 years old. It's a testament to Flair's talent and the fact that he could be one of the focal points of the WWE in a time where guys like John Cena, The Undertaker, Edge, and Triple H dominated the company. It's impressive. But yeah, you could say that they only did this to just give him one last run, and that's true, like, to be honest. It wasn't like they pushed him for no reason. It was because he was retiring. It's understandable. They gave him one last run to show that he's the man, the dirtiest player in the game. But that wasn't originally going to happen. I'll get into that in a second, but before I do, let me just say, this storyline to me was, and is, one of my favorites from the 2000s. It was like Flair was fighting for his life. He was lacking before this, and McMahon just decided, you know what, if you lose, you retire. And so, he gave it all in order to prove that he's still one of the best. Okay, right now, I'm just going to plug my Twitter once again. If you want to follow, there it is. If you don't, I understand. Right now, let's get into it. In 2007, Ric Flair's star power was dwindling. It was already dwindling after Evolution, but this time around, it wasn't doing anything notable. Flair didn't even get a spot at WrestleMania 23. He wrestled in a dark match, but this didn't really sit well with him. He was unhappy with his spot in the roster, and fuel would be added to the fire when he got drafted to SmackDown. On the Blue brand, Flair only made a couple appearances, with this final one coming on the August 10th episode when Great Khali destroyed him. Following this, rumors circulated on the internet that Flair had quit the WWE. Unhappy with his position in the company, he decided to walk. Now, personally, I just learned this recently. I didn't know Flair disappeared from the company during this time. It didn't feel like he did. Anyways, they managed to negotiate on a deal that brings Flair a storyline that brings closure to his career. Now, if you're wondering whose idea this was, it was Stone Cold Steve Austin's. The original plan saw Flair win and win and win up until WrestleMania, where I seen this on the internet, I don't know if it's true once again, where he'd possibly win the world title or the WWE Championship if the story caught on with the fans. It might not be true, I assume it isn't, but that would be weird to see, yet awesome in a way. Like, Flair winning, and winning the title at WrestleMania. Then again, it doesn't matter if it didn't happen, because this storyline was good regardless. Anyways, on the November 26, 2007 episode of Raw, Ric Flair finally returned. He made his return in his hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina, to make an announcement. It was known that he came out to the ring to announce something, and once he entered the ring, he said that there's a reason why he chose Charlotte to announce this. It's because they've been very kind to him. As a matter of fact, here are his words. There's a reason that I haven't been on Raw in 6 months. Because I know, and you know, that my wrestling career can't go on forever. So I've taken the opportunity to get myself involved in statewide politics. I've opened my own marketing company. I've had a lot of time to ponder my future. But I know sooner or later there'll be a time for me to retire. I've compared myself to the great Cal Ripken Jr., the Iron Man of baseball. Even to Brett Favre, who to this day is playing better than any quarterback in the NFL. But tonight, right here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and in front of the world, I have to announce to you that I will never retire. I will only retire when I'm dead in this ring, over my dead body. I've got too much juice left. I'm the Nature Boy. I love this business. I'm going nowhere. Thank you. Woo. That's it. He ain't going nowhere. But then out came Mr. McMahon. Vince said that Flair had him going. He liked that Flair said he'll never retire, and he hopes that he goes on forever as long as he keeps on winning. Flair's career will go on if he keeps on winning, but the first match he loses, his career is over. It doesn't matter if he wins by DQ or countout, all that matters is that Flair wins. Vince wished Flair good luck, and he told him that he wishes he doesn't die anytime soon. But then out came Randy Orton. Now, I know you guys are clamoring for that Age of Orton video, you just gotta wait up, just hold on, I am gonna make it soon. I mean, I think it's interesting. Who made an Age of Orton video? No one. Anyways, Orton said that he's here to thank Rick. Thank him for the advice he instilled into him. Thank you for being there when he's had personal problems. Thank you for being the legend you became. And he wants to thank Flair in advance tonight for the honor of ending his career. Vince booked the match for later that night, and Orton thanked him one more time. Before the match, HBK wished Ric Flair good luck, and he motivated the 16-time champion. Flair promised to give everything out there, and if he goes out, he'll go out with a blaze of glory. At this point, it seemed like this was the Nature Boy's final matchup. Nonetheless, he came out showing confidence despite the stipulation. During the match, Flair tried fighting, and in the beginning he had the advantage, but Orton bounced back and he had control throughout the match. He had the youth and stamina over Flair, but Flair himself had fire and passion. He had the desire to win this one. He delivered some chop blocks on the Legend Killer and he locked him in the figure 4. Orton was being tortured, but he grabbed the bottom rope to stop the excruciating pain. From there, Orton hit an RKO out of nowhere, and it took him a while to go for the cover, but once he did, Flair grabbed the rope with his left hand. Orton continued his onslaught on the Nature Boy, and he tried going for another RKO, but Chris Jericho suddenly interfered. The ref was distracted, and Flair capitalized on both the ref and Randy Orton by delivering a blatant, a vicious low blow that sealed the victory for him. So basically, he lives to fight another day. Now, as you may know, if you don't, let me just mention it. This stipulation is not included in tag team matches, because if Flair lost in a tag match, doesn't mean his career is over. It's only for singles matches. On the December 17th episode of Raw, Ric Flair came out and he said that Vince put an ultimatum on him. Win or retire, and that's because Vince, doesn't want him to get hurt on his watch. Flair said that he loves the business and the fans, and he also loves being the Nature Boy. He said that he sacrificed a lifetime of who he is, and walking out is not an option. He said that he's been the most selfish man alive. He mentioned his friends in the locker room and how he cherishes the memories, and he said that he's got to be Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, and he said that there's a locker room of young guys that believe in him, and for that he respects each and every one of them. He then mentioned his opponent, who was Umaga, and he promised everyone that when he walks down the ramp, he's going to give the fans the best. He doesn't care if it's anyone other than Umaga in the ring, because he wants them to bring the best, because he has to be the man. And he will not get beat in that ring without the fight of his life. And if he loses tonight, thank you. During the match, Flair struggled. Umaga was dishing out an ass-kicking. He tried fighting back with some chops and rights, but Umaga was just too powerful. He performed the Samoan drop, and from there, Flair started to make a small comeback, and he almost locked Umaga on the figure 4, but once again, he was too strong. They made their way to the outside, and Umaga tried to run through Flair, who was on the barricade, but the Nature Boy moved out of the way. He then entered the ring, and he won by countout. Afterwards, Flair gave the fans a woo before walking to the back. Later that night, Triple H was proud of Flair's victory when the boss entered the room. He randomly said, "New Year's Eve, you versus you." He wished them Happy New Year's before smiling. Now, that match, it wasn't just a career-threatening match for Flair. It was also a matchup for Triple H's Royal Rumble spot. If the game lost, then he's out of the Rumble. Before the match, Triple H was honest with Ric Flair. He was basically confident that he's winning this one. He was like, "Are you sure you're going to be able to keep up with me? Because I'm the game, blah, blah, blah." You know, Flair said that that isn't a foregone conclusion, and he said that he will be Triple H's friend for the rest of his life, regardless of the result. He said that he wanted Triple H to bring his A-game, and he told him that he isn't the man until he, Triple H, beats him. Now, for a Ric Flair match late in his career, it was good. Scratch that the match in general was good. Flair once again digged down deep and fought for his career, while Triple H attempted to vanquish his career. Both men put in a performance, and in the end, Flair locked Triple H in the figure 4. The game managed to make it to the ropes, and he hit the pedigree on him. Since his knee was damaged, he couldn't make it in time for the cover. Once he did, William Regal interfered, and he nailed Ric Flair with the brass knuckles. You know why? It's to cause a DQ. At this point, Regal had bigger issues with Triple H than with Flair. As a matter of fact, I don't even think he had an issue with Ric Flair. What this result meant was that Ric Flair gets to fight another day, and Triple H is out of the Royal Rumble. Meanwhile, on SmackDown, another superstar claimed to be the one who retires Ric Flair. It was MVP. He was confident in his abilities. He said that he's better than Triple H, and he's going to be the one to end the Nature Boy's career. Following this, the match was eventually made for the Royal Rumble. I don't know exactly when, but right before it was, Ric Flair had another opponent to deal with. It was William Regal. The funny part in this matchup is the fact that Flair won in 2 minutes. He rolled up Regal and he won. That's it. But like I said, he didn't have enough time to rest, as it was on to the next challenger, Montel Vontavious Porter. On the January 18, 2008 episode of SmackDown, MVP invited Ric Flair to the VIP lounge. The Nature Boy thanked MVP for his introduction, but said that it doesn't really matter because there's no one in this arena or watching at home that doesn't know who Ric Flair is. He said that he was tearing up VIP lounges before MVP was even born. Vontavious Porter then shifted the topic to the Royal Rumble, and he claimed Flair's career is going to be over that night. Flair said that MVP doesn't got what it takes to beat him, to which Porter replied, "Vengeance, Night of Champions." You know, the night MVP beat him. He said that once again at the Royal Rumble, he's going to beat Flair because he's half man, half amazing. Flair offered a rebuttal stating that, well, MVP is half man, he is the man. And there was no denying the loss at Vengeance. He then mentioned legends he faced, and he said that he looks at his loss to MVP as a blemish that he has to correct. And in closing, MVP's got a great future, but compared to the guys in his resume, he can't lace their boots. Vontavious Porter replied to this, stating that this is going to be the greatest day in his career, while it's going to be Flair's last day. The Nature Boy said that MVP reminds him of a young Ric Flair, but then he realized that MVP isn't really as good as him. MVP said that he's better, and Flair took off his jacket. Now, Porter wanted to save this for the Royal Rumble, right? He wanted to save it for the Royal Rumble because he wanted the whole world to know that the greatest of all time isn't better than him. They then had a stare down before Flair chopped the hell out of MVP. I just want to mention this. Flair wasn't on a particular brand during this time period. He was on all three brands, Raw, SmackDown, and ECW. As a matter of fact, during live events, he was either on the Raw or the ECW or SmackDown ones. It didn't matter. And all those matches were career-threatening ones. On the final SmackDown before the Royal Rumble, MVP discussed his match with Ric Flair. He said that he's better than the best of all time, and due to that statement last week, Flair took exception to that and he delivered a cheap shot. He said that it's different for Flair to face the fact that at the Royal Rumble, his career is over. He continued to make fun of Flair, and he also mentioned that while he's winning world titles, Ric Flair is going to be shuffleboard champion at retirement homes. And when MVP is being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame and being pronounced the greatest sports entertainer of all time, good one, Ric Flair will be languishing in a retirement home where his name, his face, his legacy will disappear forever. Out he came. Ric Flair praised MVP, calling him entertaining, and he said MSG is the grandest stage for a place if he retired. He said that the problem is that he's pointing at himself, this ball chipping, shuffleboard playing, nursing home patient is not ready to go home, and he's gonna be MVP at the Royal Rumble. At the Royal Rumble, Ric Flair made his way to the ring after what was possibly his final match. Before the contest, he told the fans that it's been a great honor to wrestle in Madison Square Garden, and he said that his first match in MSG was in 1976, and the amount of respect that the fans show him is unbelievable. MVP then interrupted the promo. Now, MVP didn't make good on his promise, and he ended up tapping to the figure 4. Following this, MVP got a rematch on the week's SmackDown, and during the match, MVP countered the figure 4 and refused to let go, so the ref called for the DQ. Once again, Ric Flair lives to fight another day. He continued his assault on Flair's knee, and in the end, he basically destroyed it. Sometime after this, Mr. Kennedy was given the opportunity to be the one who retired the Nature Boy. On the February 11, 2008 episode of Raw, Mr. Kennedy came out and he called out Ric Flair. The reason why he's asking Flair for an answer is because he never responded to the challenge made by him. The match was made, but Flair's knee was injured and he didn't respond. So what I'm trying to say is that Flair's knee was injured, the match was booked, but Flair himself didn't speak about the match. He didn't discuss the match. Flair came out and he taught Kennedy a history lesson. He spoke about how he wrestled 70 days a week, so guys like Kennedy could wrestle 100 days a year. He said that he's hurt, but he's going out there on Sunday. Kennedy responded to this, stating that if Flair knew what was good for him, then he wouldn't wrestle. He repeatedly told him, "You don't know what's good for you." He continued to repeat it, "You don't know what's good for you. You don't know what's good for you." Flair responded to this with a no. He's gonna wrestle at No Way Out, and he mentioned how he was a 16-time champion, and that's what Kennedy respects, because he wants to win it once. And yeah, sure, Kennedy has a good future ahead of him, but his future isn't going to be at his expense. At No Way Out, the Nature Boy is going to walk down that aisle, he's going to get into this ring, and he's going to live to fight another day. There was a tense stare down between the two individuals before Kennedy backed off. He then kicked the injured leg of Ric Flair's, and he mocked him. Basically, he was showing us a preview of what's to come at No Way Out. Alright, during that match, Kennedy mostly targeted the injured leg, making it a liability for Flair. He exploited the injury, locking him in a few holds, including a figure 4. Kennedy tried using some cheap tactics to win, but it wasn't to be, as Flair made him tap out to the figure 4 leg lock. Right after the match, Flair announced himself as the winner, and he called himself the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, never going to retire son of a gun. So at this point, Flair was on a roll, and I believe this was his second clean victory, MVP, and now Kennedy. Anyways, the next night on Raw, HBK Shawn Michaels came out to announce the first inductee of the 2008 Hall of Fame ceremony. The guy he idolized and one of his best friends, Ric Flair. He even wooed to celebrate this. On the February 25th, 2008 episode of Raw, Shawn Michaels had just beat Lance Cade in a matchup when Ric Flair decided to come out. The Nature Boy praised HBK, and he said that he was honored to have him, HBK, introduce him as the first active wrestler to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. He said that there's one thing that can make that weekend even more magical, and that is to wrestle the man whose name is synonymous with WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels. He challenged him to the match, and HBK himself was a bit reluctant. He mentioned that every Flair match is a career-threatening one, and he said that he didn't want a day to pass without Flair in the industry. He also mentioned that he didn't want to live with the burden of being the man who retired Ric Flair. The 16-time champion then made it clear. He thought that what HBK said last week meant nothing if he can't face him at the grandest stage of all. All that respect that he showed last week during the announcement meant zero. HBK then accepted the challenge, and the match was on. Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 24. At this point, there was an immense amount of mutual respect between the two, but over the next couple of weeks, the two began to drift apart. Well, as a matter of fact, on the final Raw, they began to drift apart, but before they did, they teamed up to face Edge and Hawkins and Ryder inside a steel cage on the March 14th episode of SmackDown. Right before the match, Chavo Guerrero was added to the match, making it a 4-on-2 handicap one. La Familia put a beating on both men, and obviously Flair bled. It's obvious, it's a cage match. Like, how is he not gonna bleed? This match was basically the destruction of HBK and Ric Flair. Mostly Flair because HBK had to watch some of the carnage unfold. And is this the only match that Chavo and HBK were involved in? Because I can't seem to recall a match in WWE that these two faced off. Near the end, both men started to make a comeback and they locked Edge and Ryder in the figure 4. Chavo then hit a frog splash to cancel the holds, and if this thing wasn't crazy enough, The Undertaker appeared from out of nowhere and he kicked ass. Edge climbed out to help La Familia win the match, while The Undertaker was destroying Hawkins and Ryder. While Flair and HBK were preparing to face each other at WrestleMania, this lunatic decided to book himself in a match against Ric Flair. Basically, he was going to be the one who put Ric Flair's career to a screeching halt before WrestleMania. He wasn't satisfied with his name on the Walk of Fame because that happened that week, and he decided, you know what, I'm going to be the one who ends the career. Someone's pretty greedy. Anyways, this street fight was messy. They brawled in the crowd, Flair bled, McMahon dominated, and it took HBK interfering and pulling the ref out of the ring to swing the favor into Flair's side. He low-blowed Vince and he drove him through a table to live to fight another day. I believe this was Flair's hardest fought victory because McMahon was kicking his ass. That's something you don't hear every day. Now, the most memorable segment, well, for me, I don't know about you, maybe it's another segment, came on the March 24th episode of Raw. On that night, things boiled over between HBK and Ric Flair. There was initially mutual respect between the two, but this night, it was different. I really loved this segment. It showed the tense side in Ric Flair, and it showed how HBK was really confident in his abilities, and he really didn't want to get dragged into this. Like, if you're going to make me do it, then fine. Fine, I'm going to do it. I'm going to retire you, because I'm the showstopper. It's simple as that. Right, here's the promo. It's too good to be butchered by me. And some of it, it's not the entire thing. Contrary to what everybody thinks, I picked you to wrestle me at WrestleMania because I want to prove on the grandest stage of all that I could still be the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. I'm talking about WrestleMania, Mr. Showstopper, Mr. WrestleMania. I want you to bring the best out in me. I need that. I need that to make it the rest of the way in my life. I need one more night. I need to be the Nate. Is that asking too much? Here's Michaels. Let me assure you of one thing. I'm going to give you everything you need. I'm going to give you Shawn Michaels. I'm going to give you the headliner. I'm going to give you the main event. I'm going to give you the icon, and rest assured, I've got no choice. I'm going to give you the showstopper. Come Sunday, Nate, you're going to step into the ring with Mr. WrestleMania. They shook hands, and Michaels was about to leave, but then he decided to say some other things. You know, before I go, just so there's no doubt in your mind that you're going to get everything you need and more, I want to remind you of a little story. Remember the story of Old Yeller? They loved that dog, but when it was time, they had to take that dog out back and finish him. Come Sunday, the showstopper is going to take you, Old Yeller, behind the woodshed and put you out of your misery. Flair dropped the NWA World title and he said this: Old Yeller, are you kidding me? He slapped the hell out of HBK. I've got you, Old Yeller. He continued slapping him. I said, I've got you, Old Yeller. What are you going to do about that? Come on. He continued slapping him. Why don't you take Old Yeller behind the woodshed right now? Michaels kept his composure and said this: like I said, I'm putting you out of your misery. He was calm and collected, unlike Flair, who was repeatedly slapping him. Like, he was freaking pissed. Like, that pissed him off. Because HBK basically saw him as damaged goods, basically. He's like, this guy's basically done it, and I'm going to be the one to finish him at WrestleMania. Like I said, amazing promo. It shows the contrasting ways of both men. Michaels was waiting for Sunday, while Flair just wanted to get at it right now. Later that night, both men did go at it during their tag match. Michaels nailed Flair, but then Flair low-blowed him, and he made Randy Orton, the champion, tap out 6 nights before WrestleMania. Now, I didn't even know this. Like, Flair made Randy Orton tap out clean. At WrestleMania, Ric Flair faced Shawn Michaels. If he loses, he retires. Flair's family were in attendance for this one, and they played Leave the Memories Alone. I believe they played this like 100 times at WrestleMania and the Raw afterwards. I'm not sure, though. Despite that, this is one of my favorite promos WWE ever made. It's so damn emotional. It's like you knew this was going to be the final time Flair is going to wrestle. Now, since Flair was inducted to the Hall of Fame, this result was painfully obvious. Nonetheless, they brought us one of the greatest WrestleMania matches ever. Before the match, Mike Adamle interviewed Ric Flair. The Nature Boy said that his game plan is to be the man. Out he came to what was his final match. This feels so damn good to see. The fact that it's the first WrestleMania HD makes it even better. At this point, we knew we were in for an emotional roller coaster. Now, about the match, it was good, but the story makes it great. As a matter of fact, the story is one of my favorites. It was magical, and I don't think something like this could be replicated. At one point, both men shoved each other, and Flair mentioned Old Yeller. HBK then slapped the hell out of him, and blood came out of Flair's mouth. Flair then connected with an aerial move. He connected with a crossbody. How many times did Flair successfully hit a move from the top rope? Not much. From there, HBK hit a springboard backflip onto the announce table, and God, I could feel it like the ribs. Painful. The Nature Boy then hit a few suplexes. HBK had a moonsault off the top rope. It was so damn fun. From there, Michaels continued to have the upper hand despite his ribs. He tuned up the band, but then he hesitated, and Flair capitalized on this by locking him in the figure 4. Flair was going to make HBK pay, but he managed to escape. From there, Flair chop blocked Michaels, and then he locked him in the figure 4 again. After several, and I mean several seconds of excruciating pain, Michaels finally reached the ropes. The Nature Boy smelled blood, and he continued to target the knee. Flair then walked around the ring, and once he turned around, boom! Sweet chin music. After several seconds, he went for the cover. 1, 2, Flair kicks out. Michaels didn't know what to do. Still feeling the effects from his knee, Michaels tuned up the band once again. Flair struggled to get back up, so Michaels went up to him. He low-blowed HBK, and this only got him a 2 count. Following this, Shawn then locked Flair in his own figure 4, and Flair managed to reach the ropes, and with the ref distracted, he thumped Michaels in the eye, and he continued to use cheap tactics, but it didn't get him the victory. Both men then chopped one another before HBK delivered a sudden sweet chin music. Michaels didn't go for the cover though, and instead, he tried going for another sweet chin music. Once again, Michaels was hesitant to hit it. Once Flair recovered, he begged for Michaels to hit it. A reluctant HBK said this: "We all know the $1 million words. I'm sorry, but I love you." And he super kicked Flair. 1, 2, 3. Flair's career is over. After nearly 35 years, that's it. His career has been ended by Shawn Michaels. Overall, in an emotional contest that brought us a historic match and a historic send-off. I believe they were offered the main event spot, but Flair himself turned it down. I'm not sure though. I seen this a while ago. I don't think it's true though, but who knows? Maybe it is. In a recent interview, link is down below, Flair spoke about his WrestleMania 24 match against Shawn Michaels, and I quote, "Yes, it's my favorite WrestleMania moment, by far." And that wasn't rehearsed. That wasn't even discussed. That was just raw, pure emotion. He knew that I didn't want to leave. I think Vince knew that too, but it was time. I wish that I had never wrestled again and that was my last match, but I think I've outlived that work thanks to the things I did after that, and hopefully it will be remembered as the last thing I did in wrestling, besides working with my daughter, which has been a tremendous treat for me. Now, as we all know, Flair went to TNA, and yeah, sure, we'd like to forget about that, but let's look at the positives from that time. Who could forget Jay Lethal, like that woo-off thing, like that was so damn awesome. Also, this send-off brought us HBK and Batista's feud, which brought us Y2J and HBK, so for that, this was a success. Regardless, it was already a successful program, and I am glad I got the chance to cover it on this channel. The next night on Raw, every one of Flair's friends and family members came out to celebrate his career, and it was so damn emotional. He was crying and crying and crying, and why wouldn't you? Like, after all that, it's over. Undertaker, John Cena, Chris Jericho, Batista, Triple H, HBK, everyone came out to celebrate the career of the Nature Boy. All in all, it was a memorable moment in Raw history, and it was an emotional send-off. And that's it for this video. If you want the sequel to this, which is the Batista and HBK feud, go on and check out this video. That's it for this video. Make sure you hit a chop block on the like button and perhaps a figure 4 on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.